In this video, I'm going to go through the process of UV wrapping this mug object here. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to press the dot button on my number lock. And now I'm obviously focused in on this object. But if I was to rotate around it, you'll see that obviously I'm going to collide with the bottle here as well. That's going to be quite annoying, which means I have to kind of zoom in and try to focus on this object, as well as like avoiding colliding with other objects in the scene. As you can see, it is pretty busy. So what if I wanted to just focus in on this object with nothing else around it? Well, we can do that by pressing the / key on your keyboard. Now that's the slash key, which is closest to the backspace, enter, and shift key on the right side of your keyboard. Now, as you can see, the object I have selected is fully visible and there's nothing else in the scene. So essentially what the / key does is that it focuses in on the object that you have selected and it hides the objects that are unselected. So again, I press it there. You can see that I can just fully focus on this object. Now, this doesn't carry over when you're going into other tabs. So if I go into UV editing mode, you can still see that it's in the sort of normal state here. So if I press /, then it's going to hide everything else and just focus in on the mug. So now I want to go through the process of UV unwrapping this mug. Now, I need to add in seams so that when I tell Blender to UV unwrap it, it will UV unwrap it based on the seams that we have highlighted. So I need to make sure that I'm in edge mode by pressing 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sort of methodically adding in seams on this mug. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Shift and Alt. I'm going to select this edge here because I want to have like the inside and the outer areas all selected. I'm going to have the bottom of the mug selected, as well as this inside area here. I'm also going to do this top rim here, so half of it. So this shell will have half of the rim. This shell will have half of the mug rim up there. I'm also going to make this separate from the actual handle as well, just to kind of avoid as much distortion as possible. I'm going to do the same with this bottom part here. There we go. And this part here. And then I'm also going to do the inside of this, of the handle as well. Now I'm happy with my selection. I'm going to press the right mouse button and then go to mark seams. And you'll see now that I'll have these red lines around my object. So that's basically telling Blender that these are the seams for when we UV unwrap. So I'm going to press A to select everything. And then I'm going to go to UV editing tab. I've already UV unwrapped it already, but I'm going to do it again just to kind of show you the process. So I'm going to press U and then I'm going to press unwrap. So it's going to unwrap the model based on the seams that we have created. So it's looking pretty good. But I can go in and refine it. So you could go with this one if you so wish, but I want to make some slight adjustments. So what I'm going to do is for the handle bit, I want to straighten these out. So I can do that by going in here and I'm going to press 2 to go into edge mode. I'm going to select this edge here, right mouse click and align auto. And what that does is that it essentially straightens up the edges, essentially. So this is a nice clean rectangle here. I'm going to press 3 to select face. I'm going to select this face here, right mouse click, and then follow active quad. So it uses that particular quad as a basis to kind of make adjustments to the rest of the UV shell. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Line auto. And then I'm going to follow active quads. Now with this area here, you can see that it's actually broken it into 4 different pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these 4. And let's see if we can, actually I'll probably have to do it in the perspective view actually. So I'm going to Shift Alt, make sure I press 3 to select faces. There we go. These ones. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the y-axis. Let's just zoom in a little bit. And then now that I'm in this view, I want to make a UV shell based on the current view in my 3D perspective. So if I press U, and I go project from view. So it uses the perspective camera to project a UV shell. Do that. You can see now that I've got now just 2 UV shells, one for the top and then one for the bottom. I'm going to press A again, so select everything. These are pretty big, so I might want to scale these down. Both these. Scale them. There we go. I'm not too fussed about the size at the moment. I'm just kind of cleaning up these UV shells before I kind of pack them all into this space here. So I'm going to select this shell here, which I believe is the inside. Yep. I'm going to press U, and then I'm going to do cylindrical projection. Make sure the direction is aligned to object. And then I'm going to just scale it up because obviously it's a bit too thin at the moment. I'm just comparing the inside as well. Like that. Move that away for a second. Now, it is important to have like a checkered texture assigned if you already haven't. In case you forgot, if you press the plus button here, new, base color, image texture. If you have any of the checkered texture images that we've provided for you, you can assign that to use. Now, the reason why it's good to have a checkered texture assigned is because you can see how the UV shells are distorted or if they're scaled in too much, which means like the text might be stretched out or might be kind of squashed up. So you can see right now that the inside here, you can see that the text is actually reversed. So I need to fix that. So right now what I can do with the UV shell selected, I can press the right mouse button and I can, there you go, mirror in the X or Y. So mirror it to the X. You can see now that the text is following correct way from left to right. So if I was to put like say my name here, it's going to follow correctly rather than being in reverse if it was the other way around. So I'm going to do the same here now. So I'm going to do cylindrical projection and then I'm going to scale this up. And scale it out as well. Move it up here a little bit. Just do this out of the way. So make sure it's relatively squared. Something like that should be fine. So what I can do is I can then manually start moving these down. Just scale it just really quickly. Now you don't want any of these UV shells to overlap because you won't be able to texture it correctly. So they all need to have their own spacing. And what I might do is I might also scale this up a little bit because I'm just trying to compare the number 4. Although I think that should be fine. Although I might scale up just a tiny bit. Comparing that to that. Oh, no, actually, I think that should be fine. That looks pretty good. So I'm just going to put these there. Just put these here. Perfect. Now, if I'm happy with this, although I'm not actually because it is poking out a little bit, as you can see. So it's really important to make sure that your UV shells all fit within the, as you can see this like sort of white line here. You want to make sure that it is fitting within this space here because anything outside of it won't be exported when you're exporting this out to say Photoshop or Substance Painter. So what I might need to do is I might need to move everything down just a smidge. So something like that and then to the right a little bit just so I know that, yep, this is fully inside this area here. So I'm going to press A and then I'm going to UV and then export UV layout. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just call this mug underscore UV. And then I can change the size. So maybe I want this to be like a full HD mug because it might be for like a portfolio piece. So I'm going to put 1024 by 1024. You're always going to work in the power of 2. And then I can export that out. And then I can open it up in Photoshop to then add images on it to actually create a texture for it. Now, if you don't want to manually move these UV shells into this space, you do have the option of doing pack islands as well, and you can kind of change things as well. So you can tell Blender to, yeah, you can scale and rotate these islands if you so wish. And I can press OK, and it will kind of do it for me. I'll try to get the best possible result for you. So there is that option as well, if you so wish. But although you will see it kind of just automatically change some of the sizes of some things as well. So maybe there's part of the model that you want to have a bit more detail. Don't forget as well about textile density as well. So it's basically like how much space these UV shells have. Obviously, the bigger these UV shells are, the more detail there's going to be. So, for example, this UV shell here, there's actually this UV shell here. Obviously, you see this quite a lot. It takes up the most surface area, so you want this to have as much detail as possible. If this shell was a lot smaller, like this, for example, it's going to have less detail. It's going to look a lot more blurry. So you have to make sure that you're using the space strategically and effective. Always think about what is taking up the most surface area and space. That way you can help determine the quality of your textures.